Hi, hello, and welcome back to my channel, Alex in Wonderland, where we talk all about book reviews and recommendations. Thank you for tuning in today. We're talking about most interesting books I've ever read. This is a parted series. I've done part 1, part 2, and now we're into part 3. This list just keeps growing for me as I continue to read more books this year, so I don't really see this series going away. I mean, I just keep adding stuff to it. So I'm only going to do 3 titles today, but let's not wait. Make sure to hit all the buttons down below so you know when I'm posting. I post every week, and let's get into it. First book I'm going to talk about today is The Afterlife of Walter Augustus by Hannah Lynn. Y'all have heard me talk about this book before, okay? And that's because, honestly, it's the best book ever. So if you like books about the afterlife, I do. I like books about the afterlife because I like seeing other interpretations besides just the, you die and you go to heaven thing. I like to see and hear and read about what other people could imagine happens to you. In this book, I reference this book all the time as one of my favorite afterlife stories. So in this book, Walter Augustus, I'm sorry, it is like the sun is out today, okay? Focus. Walter Augustus has been deceased for a long time, and in this book, what happens after you die is you go to this kind of like waiting area, and you have to stay there. It's sort of like a purgatory until everyone in the living realm forgets about you. It sounds pretty easy, right? But it's like you have to think about how many people know you or remember you, or if you're super famous for something, like if you have like a viral video out there that's just gonna like stay around forever, you're gonna stay in purgatory forever. Walter published a small book of poems a long time ago. It only made 3 copies, so there's only 3 copies like in existence everywhere. And that's why Walter has been in the in-between for so long, is because people will periodically pick up his book and read it, and the second they read it, he is not allowed to leave purgatory. And so at some point, like, almost all of his family is gone, like generations of his family have passed, and he's just really waiting to like go on to what's next to join the rest of his family, like his wife and his kids and things like that. And he's almost there. He's like got his foot out the door to go on to what's next, and someone picks up his book. And so in this story, we're following August as he's trying to get this person who's in the living world to like forget about this book. They're like trying to get rid of the book. So it's like she saw it, but she didn't read it. So it's like maybe she'll just forget it exists. But we're also getting this other side of the living person. I think her name is Letty. Don't quote me on that. We're also getting little bits of her story and little bits of her life, which is really funny. And then we're getting crossover action between her and him, and it's just a great story. Like the concept of it, to me, I love the concept of this story of like you have to wait until people completely forget about you to move on. And while we're in this like purgatory in between thing, like it's full of famous people because they're literally never gonna move on. People like Marilyn Monroe, presidents, famous actors, famous singers, like people like that, like they're gonna be remembered forever, so they're just gonna sit in purgatory forever. They'll probably never know what it's like to move on. And it's one of those things that just kind of, I'll find myself thinking about this book all the time. Just randomly, I'll find myself thinking about this book. So if you want something that's like, it is funny, and it's also got like a little bit of paranormal like jump scare in it, and it's just an interesting concept, like check out this book. Obviously check out Hannah Lynn in general. I've done like a whole feature on her. If you haven't read one of her books yet, like Where Have You Been? This one though. The next book I'm going to talk about today is True Story by Michael Finkel. Okay, so this actually has like a longer title, but I get it mixed up all the time, so just look for like True Story by Michael Finkel and you will find it. So this is a true crime story. about Christian Longo, who was accused of murdering his wife and 2 kids. They did make this into a film. Highly recommend the book. Okay, the film's fine. They did a good job with the film. The book is always better, okay? And I do not like true crime. Let me just say that. I do not really like true crime. I find it very dry, not very engaging. It's just a lot of facts usually. Like, I don't really like the way that true crime books are usually composed. And so I was super interested in this book because I was super interested in this story specifically. And that is why I read it. Let me just say, Michael Finkel is a professional writer. Like, not just like, oh, he published a book. Like, he was a journalist. And so when you get someone that's a journalist, like a professional journalist, he worked for like the New York Times, I think. Someone that's that caliber to write a full story, oh my gosh. It was just hyper engaging, exciting. The pace was excellent. This book was just so interesting. So let's just talk a little bit about like what's it about. Well, Michael Finkel, the writer, gets fired from his job as a journalist because he was accused of falsifying documents for a story. So, you know, journalists are supposed to only tell the truth and things like that. Well, he was accused of making up a story, basically. Got fired, and at that point, nobody wanted to hire him because, like, you don't want to hire a journalist that's going to lie about stuff. Like, it's kind of like not the gig, you know? At this point, Christian Longo has been in prison for a little bit. I can't really remember where he is, if he's appealing, if he's just getting his trial set up at this point. He reaches out to Michael Finkel and says, I want you to do a story on me. And this is the first time he's ever reached out to anybody. So this is Michael Finkel's actual story of interviewing Christian Longo, and then he put it into the format of a book. It blew me away. Let me tell you, it just miles above anything that I was expecting. Miles above. And the ending. This is another reason why I don't like true crime, is because there's not going to always be a cookie cutter ending, because it's real life, you know, and like honestly, in real life, a lot of times justice is not very satisfying. And I will honestly say this is one of those times justice was not very satisfying for me. But regardless of that, Michael Finkel really put something cool together here. It was just really, really neat. So if you like true crime already, check out this book. It's definitely, I still think about this all the time. If anyone ever asks me for true crime recommendations, I hands down always recommend this book. The last book I'm going to talk about today is The Coldest Girl in Coldtown by Holly Black. This was the first Holly Black book that I ever read, and let me remind you guys, I do not like vampire fiction. This is a vampire book. I feel like everyone's probably read this book by now because it's pretty popular. I read this a long time ago, but it's still one of those books that I think about all the time. And I mean, like, that's the whole point of the most interesting books. Like, if I'm still thinking about these books like years after I've read them, then obviously I thought they were really, really interesting. Like I said, it's a vampire book. We have our main character. She's at like a little house party or whatever. She passes out, and then when she wakes up, like, everybody in the house is dead except for her. Like, what a way to open a story, first of all. And then we just kind of come to figure out that the house was invaded by vampires in the night, and that's how everybody died. Her ex-boyfriend got bit but didn't die, so he's going to change. And in this world that Holly Black has created, vampires are known in existence. Like, everybody knows they exist. It's not like they're hiding or anything like that. And where they typically live are these places called cold towns. And like, it's super locked down. They're not supposed to like come in and out freely. It's very restrictive. But there's like these video cameras like live streaming in Coldtown all the time. So it's kind of like this like weird reality TV show that people like in the real world outside of Coldtown will like sit on their couch and watch the live stream of the vampire towns. It's like super crazy, like, because these towns are just wild. Like, it's a lot of like fanfare and show, and like, because when you think of vampires, you think of like really rich people, really fancy people, like glam and, you know, mirage and beauty and all of that. So it's like people tune in and like watch it on TV and on their phones and stuff. So it's like this super cool thing, and it's like almost a little bit like fetishized. Anyway, so she decides to go to Coldtown with her ex-boyfriend, and because it's the only safe place for him to go right now, and some other random guy that they met at the party, because he says, I know how to get you to Coldtown, I'll take you there. And the whole story is about her going into Coldtown and then trying to prevent her ex-boyfriend from turning, and then trying to get out of Coldtown still human. And just the whole concept of it was super cool to me. Just like everybody tuning in to watch the vampires and then being like these super cool, you know, almost like trendsetters. Like, what would you say? It's almost like being like a content creator or a celebrity or something like that. That's basically what all these vampires were just giant celebrities that lived forever in these really cutthroat towns that were sprinkled across the United States. And there's just a love story or a crush story in there that just stole my breath. Oh, wow, okay. I do think this is technically YA, but I mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. And I don't even like vampire books, and I enjoyed this one. But the whole concept to me was just really original, really cool. And yeah, if people want vampire books, I always point them to this one, because the concept to me was just so unique and awesome. So yeah. Okay, so that's all the books I'm going to talk about today, but I have a super, super exciting announcement. I know I should have probably put this at the beginning of the video, but you know. So if you didn't know, on my Instagram last week, I did a giveaway, and today starts another giveaway for this book, Bloodsucker's Blog by Ella Stone. I'm super excited. Yet another vampire book. I mean, I don't know what's gotten into me lately with these vampire books. We are giving away this book on my Instagram. There's links in my bio. I will put a link down below for you to get to my Instagram and enter the giveaway. And enter quickly, because the giveaway is ending on September 1st. And I really love it if one of you won. You know, someone from my TikTok actually won the last giveaway book that we did. So it'd be super exciting if someone from YouTube won it. That's all I have for you guys today. Make sure you hit all the buttons down below so you know when I'm posting, like, follow, hit the notification bell, do all the things, and I will see you guys next week. Bye!